Before the beginning of 2020, musicians all over the world were living and working largely the same way for decades. Writing and recording songs in the studio, releasing their music, and performing live shows and tours that are usually planned out for the entire upcoming year and at times longer. But this was all shaken up as in March of last year, the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic struck worldwide and changed everything we know. All schedules performing artists, managers, studio personnel, and recording companies had were all collectively thrown out the window. Plans were cancelled and jobs were lost. Not only did the pandemic have big consequences for already established musicians in the field, things also became a lot more complicated for the ones just starting out. In this video essay, I will be discussing the effect the corona crisis has had on upcoming independent musicians. To complement already established data on the topic, I have personally interviewed one such upcoming artist. His name is Andrew Fernandez. Both producer and musician, Andrew has his own solo project called Datakiss, under which he releases any music he likes, no matter what genre. He's also part of the 4-piece Groningen-based indie pop band No Shame Rosé. Both projects you can find on Spotify. We will be discussing his music, how it is to be a musician during this time, and much more. This video essay is mostly meant for fellow upcoming artists who are trying to find ways to thrive and build a successful career despite these external factors, and to get a perspective from fellow artists with whom you share these goals. Working in the music industry in general has always been a precarious job. The financial situation of a working musician relies on many factors, a lot of which are out of their own hands. Coupled with the ever-growing number of temporary jobs and flexible work environments, this has only gotten worse. Statistics show that in 2019, temporary employees as percentage of the total number of employees in European countries has risen to over 25% in some countries. In the Netherlands, for example, this was 13.6%. And this number has only gone up since the COVID-19 pandemic, as many people working from home or being laid off work entirely because of cuts in the workforce or as a result of dwindling revenues. For musicians, this means the same thing, and many are walking on thin ice as a result of the pandemic, which leads to stressful living. I asked Andrew if he finds being a musician at this point in time stressful.
Sometimes I want to work on it more, but because it used to be I'd make music to be like, oh, maybe I can try to make a living off this, and that was not working out. But now I make music for the sake of making music, so it's become a lot easier for me. It's not as stressful. I'm not like, oh, I need to write a pop banger and I need to pay my rent. Because I'm lucky that I have a job and a girlfriend who also has a job. So I don't have to worry about being like, this song needs to be the one that's going to make me money now. So in terms of that, it's not too stressful for me, but it can be very stressful to, at least because of Corona, it's very tough for my band, to all agree on something and be like, this is perfect. So that's where the stress comes from for me. Or also because I just released a new song as Datakiss a month ago, and I was really hoping it would be playlisted on a Spotify playlist, because the thing is with those is that you have to play by Spotify's rules and then they might grant you it. And I played by their rules very, very strictly. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to kiss up to them. And then it didn't happen. That happened. And so that can be very stressful, because you put in this time to be in that image and then Spotify goes, no. And I think that's been very stressful for me.
While the restrictive environments imposed by the pandemic have generally added to the precarious nature of being a musician, it has also had a serious effect on the creative process of a lot of artists. Pandemic-induced stress has led to profound loss of energy and motivation to fully engage in creative practice. In a survey done for the Conference on Human Factors in Computing Systems, 36 musicians have been asked about their mindset and states of creativity during this stressful time. The study showed that while a large number of participants had difficulties getting into a creative mindset due to stress, several participants have come up with novel creative experiences in light of pandemic constraints. I asked Andrew about how the pandemic and lockdown has affected his creative process personally.
In terms of my creative process, it has never been better, because it was whenever I had the time before. So if I was just bored at home, I'd finish, because I was studying in Groningen. Whenever I'd finish the work I needed to do for the day, I would just be like, oh, I'm going to make a beat, I'm going to do something. And so also, at least for me then, it was a lot of like, oh, I have to figure out how to use the software I'm doing. I have to learn the music theory. And now a lot of that is just really natural to me. So having all this free time during Corona, I have made a lot of music that's actually, in my opinion, good. That I was like, oh, if this came out, it'd be great. But it's also been kind of, now it's a bit tougher to do it because it's the whole thing of I've been doing it for months and months. So now I don't get the same like drive to make something. Because now it's like, well,
it's going on a little too long, you would say.
Yeah. Like it's I don't want to say I'm bored of it because I'm not, but I'm not as inspired to do it as often as I used to.
A study from the American nonprofit organization Future of Music Coalition featured 44,053 musicians, of which 74% have over 16 years of working experience in music. Their research showed that the biggest source of music-related income for artists working in rock, country, jazz, and most other genres is live performance. But of course, the live music industry has been in shambles for over a year, and gigging opportunities have been slight. I asked Andrew what his gigging experiences are and how much importance he places on them.
So the very first gig I've ever done, I did it 2 weeks ago in Friesland in the first round of a competition. Very first time I've ever played live.
Oh, right. Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, because my band, No Shame Rosé, we entered in a Frisian music competition because 3 of us are technically Frisian. So we decided to do that because they did it last year. And the first round was 2 weeks ago. It was the very first time.
How do you think about, the future of gigging? Have you any more gigs planned, or is it still kind of unsure?
So for the band, we have a few places we want to get booked in Groningen. And we know some people who own bars and restaurants, and they're like, yeah, come do a show for us. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. But we have another show in 2 weeks. It's the second round of the competition. So that's a definite show that's happening. But then I live in Leiden, they all live up in Groningen. I'm talking with people doing shows here in Leiden. And so hopefully we're going to have shows all over the Netherlands this summer. And then, but with Data Kiss, it's very tough because I don't know how I want to perform that live yet. Because it's getting a lot more, I'm trying to turn it into like a singer-songwriter project maybe. So then I also would need then, in my opinion, maybe like a full band, and that's on hold. So Data Kiss is only, maybe I would do DJ sets if I get better at that. But I'm really now only focusing on having the No Shame Rosé shows.
The pandemic took away a lot of the standard strategies for musicians to market themselves and to get their music out into the world. We mentioned live performances, but other strategies that include networking yourself at music events have also become more difficult. This doesn't mean that there are no options left whatsoever though. One of the most incentivized ways of releasing music nowadays is streaming. Streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and many more allow just about anyone to upload and distribute their music worldwide through their services. However, while streaming makes it easier for anyone to release their music, this also means that there's a lot more competition between artists, who now have to fight over the same limelight and recognition in a sea of musical content. I discussed the importance of streaming services and these implications with Andrew, and asked him what measures he takes to market himself and to stand out from the crowd.
Playlists. I try to make, well, at least as No Shame Rosé, we have one playlist called Radio Rosé, which is just like our way of being like, hey, we like these songs. We also have a new song out. We'll put it in there so people, because it is tough to market just a single, I think, because an album is really, I think, a lot easier because you're like, it's an experience. It's, 8 to 12 songs. It's this whole thing. You could spend an hour on it. Whereas to market a single, it's, 3 minutes or however long it is, and then that's it. You have to somehow hook them. And so at least what I try to do is I try to make playlists that are accessible, that have my music and then similar music or music that inspires it. So then people can go on a journey with the single. And so, but that can also be very tough because sometimes people are like, no, we want more music. We don't want a playlist. I do that. At least with my own music, I try to incorporate artists to help with the artwork. So then that also becomes like, hey, this guy, he made the album art for the song, check it out. Or he made the canvas for the thing on Spotify, check him out. And then it's like a helping kind of situation in that regard. My solo music, I feel like can sometimes be so obscure that it's not one genre, whereas with No Shame Rose, it's like, oh, this is clearly just indie pop. We're a bunch of guys making pop. It's easy to market that.
Beyond streaming, another good way of getting publicity is through social media. And do you use social media?
Yeah. Oh, big time. Instagram is right now our largest audience is on Instagram. We have like 200 followers, I think, on our account for No Shame Rose. Datakiss, like maybe 100, I think.
As I alluded to before, being a musician is precarious work, and it is rare to see an independent full-time working musician without any jobs on the side. Andrew, for instance, works a retail job. The fact simply is, monetizing your artistic work is extremely difficult, and getting a constant income flow seems impossible at times. Let's take streaming as an example once more. On Spotify, a single stream of your song only pays generally between 0.3 and 0.5 American dollar cents, and it's even less in euros. Meaning you need about 250 streams just to make a single dollar. Apple Music is a little better, paying roughly 1 cent per stream, but this still amounts to very little. Another platform that allows you to monetize your music is Bandcamp, where you, as the artist, can set a price for what you want the listeners and fans to pay. But depending on how many listeners you have, this still will not pay the bills. Andrew walked me through the steps he takes in order to earn at least a little money with the work he produces.
Oh yeah. I'm meeting with people soon to start No Shame Rose merch because we just want to make hoodies and t-shirts because we know a lot of people have told us that they're like, if you made merch, we would wear it. And so at least we'll try it first locally. So we'll make like a batch of, I don't know how many. And then at the shows we're doing, we will try to sell them, or maybe like through direct messaging on Instagram, we'll be like, hey, we have some shirts, whatever. But with Datakiss, I have been trying to make vinyls. I want to make vinyls and try to sell some of those. But at least with Datakiss, I'm not focusing on profit as much. I use any money I make from Datakiss, I try to donate it rather than give it to myself because, as I mentioned before, I'm financially secure right now. I don't need the money. And other people, especially during the pandemic, need it more than I do. But I don't make that much money, so my donations are quite small right now, which is, I wish they were a bit bigger. But so in terms of our monetization, it's mainly through Spotify or through any streaming platforms, those cents we make from that, and then we're working on merch.
Selling merch is a very popular way of getting some revenue, plus exposing your brand and music physically, and perhaps one of the better ways for independent artists to earn some money early on. But otherwise, as Andrew mentioned, you go off of the cents you make on streaming websites, which seems to be the cold reality for many. As the pandemic has negatively affected the amount of options we have to monetize our music, combined with the inability to perform live, it might deter a lot of people from wanting to give music a shot. I asked Andrew if his mindset on being a musician has changed as well.
It changed for sure, because at the beginning, before Corona, I was kind of just like, oh, it's a fun thing I do. Like, again, if I strike gold, whatever. During the pandemic, it was tough for No Shame Rose to make and release music. It was almost impossible because there was always some excuse from someone being like, no, I can't do it. Oh, no, I don't like that. Da-da-da-da. Or like, oh, we're better when we're in a room together, but we can't do that until, this year. I would always be like, I want to do it. I need to do it. I need to get it out. And I think that really made me realize that, oh yeah, like I should try to pursue this because I have this passion for music and making music and releasing music. And because all I want to do is make people happy through music. And I was like, okay, I'm making stuff that people actually are liking. And like, one of our songs has 7,000 plays on Spotify, and that blows my mind. And that friends being like, this is one of my favorite songs that came out last year. And I was like, that's crazy. I want to do that more because I want more people to be happy. And if it's through music. And I was like, I have this passion. I gotta just, now I'm like, no excuses. If I can finish a song, I'm going to finish a song and I'm going to release a song.
A small disclaimer. This video was not meant in any way to discourage starting artists from diving into music more, but only to serve as a general realistic outlook that has to be kept in mind. As the COVID restrictions are slowly being lifted again, and venues for live music and recording studios are opening up again, it's only gonna get better from here. As a final question, I asked Andrew what musicians or producers who are just starting out should know, and if he had any tips for them during this uncertain time.
Well, it's something I struggle with, but any excuse you come up with for not making music, actually think about it and think, is it a self-conscious thing, being like, oh, well, I don't know how to play this instrument right or mix this right. And really question, do you need someone else to help you do it? Or like, can you do it yourself? Even if it takes you another year, can you do it yourself? Then you should try it and do it and just go for it. Don't let others saying they're busy deter you from releasing music you want. Because eventually, you may not be able to do it now, but if you really work on it, you will be able to do it later. It's not a, oh, I might be able to. You will be able to. If you really push yourself and believe in yourself, you can do it.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to hear more from Andrew or his band No Shame Rosé, check the links to his social media and Spotify in the description. There you can also find a link to our full uncut interview. Thanks once again and have a good one.